So, I've just done my drive over to Woking, just arrived, and as I said before I left, I was going to run over my set, which I've done, and I feel like I have completely lost confidence in all of my material. I've just been thinking about it, and Hello, I am back on the long road. It's been a while, hasn't it? Have you missed me? What have you been up to? Happy New Year and all that. Tomorrow will be 5 weeks since I last did a gig. So I'm very, very excited to be heading back over to Woking tonight, where I'm going to be doing a gig for a guy called Jay Cowell. I've not gigged for him before. I met him very early on when I was doing stand-up, and he was excellent. He had what I consider to be a really distinctive voice in comedy. He was quite like almost like a character, very bizarre, sort of slightly eccentric, and he kind of invited the audience in gently into a slightly surreal way of looking at the world. So yeah, I'm very excited to be gigging for him tonight. I haven't done this one before. In fact, I haven't seen him since he did my very first show in Edinburgh. And did kind of a 15-minute spot for me there, and disappeared off into the night. Our paths haven't crossed since, until about 3 weeks ago when he messaged me and said, "Do you fancy coming and doing a gig?" So yeah, I'm well up for that. As I said, been out of the game for a little while, so I'm not really too sure what tonight is going to hold. What I definitely know is I've been kicking around some ideas for some new bits over the last few weeks, and I'm definitely not going to do any of that tonight, because I'm just not 100% sure on how it all goes. Like, I've got ideas that are half formed but not actually written. I haven't really rehearsed any of it, and it's never a good idea to do brand new stuff on a proper show. It's not a new material night, it's not a new act night. This is a paying audience, so I need to make sure that I go and do something fairly safe. So yeah, as I say, it has been the long way away from comedy wasn't really planned. There's been some stuff that's been going on, which I won't go into in my private life, but it sort of meant that I've had to miss a couple of gigs that I was planning on doing, and it does mean that you feel a little bit anxious when you are going back to it. I kind of was sat there today thinking, A, I am very excited to be going back to doing a gig, but B, what if I've forgotten how to do it? What if I not? And I don't even so much mean the words. I think I know the words. I shall give them a run over when I set off in a minute and just make sure that I know everything in the right order. But it's not so much that. It's the things that take a while when you first begin, the feeling comfortable on the stage, being aware of what the audience are doing, noticing kind of where they're at with it, being able to adapt what you're doing to bring them into the show. So that is what I'm worried about, really. That's the thing that I'm sort of a little bit apprehensive about. But I've got tonight, I'm gigging again tomorrow night. I am doing a new material night tomorrow night, and then I'm gigging on Saturday in Camborne near Cambridge. So I think having that little run of gigs will be quite nice, and should mean that I feel comfortable again pretty quickly, and then I'm back into it. The other thing was, I toyed with what to do with these. I'm going to say podcast, but YouTube videos as well that I've been putting out. And I didn't know whether to just try and, because I feel a little bit like, I wanted, when I first came up with doing this, I wanted them to be a bit more spontaneous. So it's almost like the ideas that are popping into my head as I'm driving to the gig. But I've got a little bit of a problem with that, because as I said in a previous video, it's dark now in the beautiful British winter nights. But also, I'm not really sure if I should be driving. I had a wake-up call the other day, a shock, when I discovered that carpool karaoke, right, which is not too dissimilar to the style of this, I suppose, filmed while you're driving along. James Corden is not driving that car in Carpool Karaoke. What a scandal that is. A man of many talents. I know he gets knocked a lot, James Corden, but he can actually, I like to think that he's achieved quite a lot. Hosting the Tonys, writing a hit British sitcom on the BBC, which came back over Christmas. Did you see it? It was absolutely brilliant. But what else did he... the hosting the... I nearly said They Think It's All Over. That's a completely different show. A League of Their Own. So his own sports quiz. All of those things that I would absolutely love to do. If you'd asked the teenage me, what would be your absolute dream career, that would be it, right? But what he can't do is do a little bit of filming while he's driving around. Has to get somebody else to tow him. And obviously I'm not in that position. I can't get somebody to tow me around. So I think for now, at least, I'm going to have to stick to pulling over and filming these little bits in between. So anyway, the other thing is, I was going to say, because I've been paying a little bit of attention to what's been going on with the, with podcasts and with YouTube videos and trying to do a little bit of research. I looked at the analytics for the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I was blown away because I would have thought that the sort of people that would listen to this would probably be from the UK, possibly, a few people that I might have met who are comedians already, who are doing gigs, who know me and are just indulging me in listening into this. But it's been listened to right across the world, like Mexico, Iran, Australia, Indonesia, I think, was on there, in Scandinavia as well. So, A, thank you for listening. B, why? Why? What has drawn you in? What made you come this way? Do tell me, comment below. Tell me what it is that you were expecting when you listened to this. Did you know that it was a guy who has never been heard of going off doing stand-up comedy around the country? What did you think it was going to be about? And are you enjoying it? Do let me know, because I am keen to kind of get better at this and try and make sure that I'm talking about things that people want to hear about. So yeah, put some comments below, subscribe to the podcast or to the YouTube channel, and I will catch up with you a little bit later on in the journey and let you know how I'm getting on. So, I've just done my drive over to Woking, just arrived, and as I said before I left, I was going to run over my set, which I've done, and I feel like I have completely lost confidence in all of my material. I've just been thinking about it, and I just didn't really enjoy saying it. I mean, I know that there's not an audience here, and it always feels very different when there's an audience, and I'm not getting any of that response. But it just doesn't sound like the sorts of things that I want to be talking about on stage. I have been through this a little bit before, where I felt like just, having a whinge about my wife and talking about my kids and all of that kind of stuff in a very negative way was not something that I wanted to do, and also it just feels a bit predictable. But what I'm weighing that up with, I was talking earlier about Jay Cowell's distinct voice on stage, and people talk in comedy about finding your voice, finding your kind of persona on stage and the way that you should come across to other people. And I don't think, even after 3 years, I don't think I'm quite there yet. But I do have a little bit of an idea about what my identity is like on stage. And one of the things that someone said to me, we were driving back from a gig one day, and they said, you are somebody who, when you're on stage, you will say the things that we're all thinking, but would not say in polite company. And I really liked that. I thought that was a nice kind of little way to describe what I do. And a lot of the new stuff that I've been working on kind of follows down that route. But I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable at the moment. I don't feel comfortable with the jokes that I've got. I don't feel comfortable with the ideas that I've got for new jokes. I mean, there's nothing I can do tonight. I'm definitely not going on and doing new stuff tonight. It's just not going to happen. But I am going to have to have a little think about that and just see where I go. Because maybe the time has come to just try and start, not completely start over, but just go right back to basics and see what I can come up with. Anyway, I might feel better once I've done the gig and once I come back out. But at the moment, I'm not feeling great about. I'm not feeling great about what the next 2.5, 3 hours is going to hold. Anyway, I will let you know how it all goes. All right, so it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Actually, it was really quite nice getting back to being on stage and being in front of an audience, and the material worked and they were on board and they were lovely. It started off a bit weird though, the whole night. I ended up, it was in this arts centre called the Lightbox Arts Centre, and I went in and there was a mic set up in like a cafe bar area downstairs, so I assumed this must be the place. Couldn't see Jay or anybody else that I recognised at all, so perched myself in a corner, realised that I hadn't I've got this new bit about, well, newish bit about comments that I've written in kids' books in their marking when I, as a teacher. Realised I hadn't brought my notebook, so I rushed off around the local shops, had a little bit of time to manage to go and get a notepad. So anyway, when I got to the Lightbox, I found a little corner to perch and rewrite my harsh comments that I've been putting in code in the kids' marking. And I just had a slightly, you know, when you're in somewhere and it's just not quite right. You just know it's not how it should be. And this lady came up to me with a notebook in her hand and said, are you here for the event? Now, I have never heard a stand-up gig called an event in that way. So again, and I sort of went, yeah, I think so. She said, okay, do you know who Greg is? I said, no. And what's more, I'm not meeting Greg, and then realised that I was... Anyway, turns out I nearly got myself signed up for a open mic poetry night, which would have been really interesting, particularly if I'd gone on first, because I wouldn't have known. I'd have had no idea. Imagine that. Imagine I'd just gone on and just started, you know, laying into my wife and my kids and working in a school with not a single rhyme in sight to be able to help people out with that. Anyway, it got even better because I did realise before the night began that I was in the wrong place, messaged the group chat for the night, and they told me that I needed to be upstairs, so I went up there, met the comedians. Jay wasn't there. I still haven't seen Jay in nearly 3 years. Unfortunately, he didn't make it tonight, but it was emceed brilliantly by a guy called Ben Clover in a room that essentially is an art gallery, so probably the most highbrow room that I've ever performed in. With art all over the walls, a spoken word stroke poetry night going on downstairs. Really, really bizarre kind of setting. And now I know nothing about art either. There was one painting on the wall that caught my attention. It was called Self-Portrait in Hospital, which I thought was brilliant. I like to think that if I was in hospital, probably the first thing on my mind wouldn't be like, oh, can you bring me some more morphine and also an easel and some watercolours. But this guy had done that. Definitely had the morphine first, though, from the look of this picture. So that was good. And yeah, it was all fine. We kept having the poetry night downstairs, didn't end there. Audience members had made the same mistake that I had made, but they had taken a little bit longer to figure it all out. So all the way through the evening, we had people turning up in dribs and drabs. And we just have a little look at them of, been at the poetry? Yeah, which was quite nice. I don't know how long they had been sat there before they sat there before they realised their mistake and realised that they hadn't laughed in about 15 minutes and were now listening to some angsty kind of verse about somebody's traumatic life that they'd been through. I don't know. Instead, they get to listen to my traumatic rambling about and made up elaboration. Is that a word? I don't know. My elaborate exaggerations about what my life actually holds. Anyway, I'm rambling now. I do feel like probably the adrenaline has kicked in. I've missed this. I've missed the feeling of coming off stage and feeling like I've had a good show. I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow night. I am still going to try and get some new stuff in there for tomorrow. Because I do feel like I would like to kick on now and try and move things on. But I don't feel quite so bad about the material that I have been doing, the older stuff, as I did before I went into the gig. Anyway, thanks very much for checking in again, and I will let you know how we get on at the next couple of gigs. See you soon.